Hello, welcome to Veeam Industry Insights. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Jeff Reichard on Veeam's product strategy team, and I am joined today by Michelle Weston, who runs the security and resiliency practice for the leading global systems integrator you may have heard of named Kyndryl. We have a great show lined up today. Michelle, I know you have a very deep background in this space. Please tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. This is really very exciting to be with you today to speak about the partnership, Kyndryl overall, and what we're doing in market. Just a little bit about me. I am Michelle Weston. I build offerings, put them in market, enable all of the practitioners worldwide in Kyndryl as part of our security and resiliency practice to bring to market capabilities that really address a client's cyber resilience. And as you said, Jeff, I've been in this space for quite a while, formerly with IBM for both software and services in this space. I know data protection very well. And as I said, for the last 8 years, it's been my pleasure to lead the resiliency services portfolio and what is now the cyber resilience portfolio as part of Kyndryl.
Fantastic. Well, let's expand a little bit on that. Michelle, you just mentioned the partnership, and our listeners and viewers who follow Veeam and Kyndryl may be aware that Veeam and Kyndryl did just announce a major technology alliance. I'd like to put that partnership in perspective for maybe some of our regular viewers. Kyndryl is a very large leading systems integrator, over 87,000 employees, 63 countries, focused on delivering strategic technology outcomes to customers all over the world.
Yep.
Veeam, as you know, is the #1 enterprise data protection technology by market share worldwide, and we're now working together at a very much deeper level than we have before to solve cyber resilience problems for customers. Michelle is going to walk us through some of those problems, and is going to walk us through the alliance to talk specifically about what Kyndryl is seeing in the cyber threat landscape today and the challenges that organizations are facing. And so let's start with the basics, Michelle. When you speak with organizations who are trying to come to grips with cyber resilience today, what are the cyber threats that they're seeing? How has that landscape evolved? And what are the challenges that they're having in dealing with the realities of cyber threats today?
Yeah, and actually, Jeff, it goes beyond cyber threats. So we here in security and resiliency for Kyndryl, as you said, Kyndryl's the world's largest infrastructure services provider in the world. We know infrastructure very well. We are a services-led company. We deliver outcomes to the client. And here in security and resiliency, we've brought together both security, cybersecurity, as well as resiliency into the same practice. Why did we do that? It's under the banner of cyber resilience. It's everything that a customer needs to do to anticipate, protect against, withstand, and recover from any adverse condition. And any adverse condition is the resiliency thought. Coming out of IBM, we have decades of experience helping customers protect and withstand and recover from any outage. And we've seen it all. Deep subject matter expertise. Our practice is some 7,500 strong. We've been helping customers with everything from hurricanes to 9/11. And we know recovery really, really well. What we've done since we've spun as Kyndryl is to really build up our managed security services expertise and services. It's been a focus on rapid expansion of that portfolio, rapid expansion of hiring key skills in the markets to be able to support that. And the reason why is because we see value in bringing the two together. We know that managed security services providers are shifting right to include recovery. There's a generally accepted notion that it's not a matter of if, but when. And we've also seen investment on the side of customers shift to recovery, right? It's all about minimizing that downtime. Every minute is money. It's brand loss and reputation damage. It's customer loss. And so the quicker you can recover the minimum viable company, those critical business processes, not infrastructure, technology, applications, and data. Of course, it's all of that. But what is that infrastructure stack that underpins the business process that needs to be recovered in order to bring your business back online? If I'm a bank, I know my customers want access to their money. Now you start to think of the tolerance limits. How long will my customers go without that access? And that quickly starts to shape what you need to recover first, what do you need to have back online, and how quickly do you need to do it? And that's a really difficult thing. One of the things that Kyndryl really excels in is helping customers recover from any outage, but particularly cyber attacks. We've worked over 130 ransomware attacks with customers. And I mean, that's hand-holding, that's deep subject matter expertise, boots on the ground, being able to not only triage, cleanse the environment, do the forensics, but also help the customer recover. And the analogy that I like to use here is think of a fire. You have a fire, you call the fire department, they come, they put the fire out, they make sure there's no slow burners, they make sure the environment is safe, they turn the keys over to you. You go in and there's soot all over the walls, the place is flooded, and you now need to recover. Having a provider that can be there throughout the entire time is really, really beneficial to our customers. We know that cyber threats, to your point, are increasing in both frequency and sophistication. They are constantly evolving. We know that both production and backup environments are targeted. And we also know that backup on its own is not a strategy for cyber resilience. And we can talk more about that in a minute or two.
Yeah, I really want to sort of double click on the process that you just talked about. And I think we're going to have a chance to do that in a minute. Mm-hmm. But what you've described matches the conversations I know that at Veeam we have with organizations all the time. Mm-hmm. We find, as you know, we do a lot of industry research. We found the average downtime when folks get hit by a ransomware attack after they've triaged the attack runs to over 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. I know I'm involved in customer conversations all the time. And when we bring up some of the ramifications that are involved in cyber attacks, if they're fortunate and they haven't been through one of these before, sometimes it can be eye-opening to realize that there will be external teams, maybe from their cyber insurer, who are there overseeing the recovery. Maybe there will be law enforcement there. And those organizations can be pretty prescriptive about how the recovery happens, where the recovery happens, and a lot of details that, again, if organizations are fortunate enough not to have been through this, they might not take into account. One thing that interests me, and it ties into what you just mentioned about the breadth of Kyndryl's expertise, I read the stats, I think we've all seen them. The last estimate that I saw said that there's over 700,000 open cybersecurity positions in North America alone, over 3 million globally. Veeam's research, Data Protection Trends, which came out in January, we asked out of interest because we are a vendor and we like to know who we're talking to. We asked the folks who answered that survey, how many of you are considering changing roles this year? And what we found is that over 50% of people that we surveyed were either definitely going to or likely going to be looking for a new role this year. And so when you think about where that puts organizations, we have a total shortage of cybersecurity professionals in the market already. A lot of people haven't been through this and aren't adequately prepared, and they might lose the expertise they have. You must be finding that they're a little bit overwhelmed when you talk to them, and that your help is really valuable when Kyndryl comes in and gets on the scene.
That's absolutely true. On the security side, there's definitely a shortage of skills worldwide. In addition to that, when they partner with us, it's the expertise, the ability if they choose for us to be able to manage, let's say security operations as an example, we Kyndryl can do that for you. We have stood up in that part of the portfolio the key services that a client would need for security operations and response. We've also disrupted the market as well. We have a PaaS play for security operations and response. We affectionately call it SOAP, Security Operations as a Platform. As the world's largest infrastructure services provider, we know infrastructure really well. Look at security operations. That's just another workload running on infrastructure. Let Kyndryl run that infrastructure for you. We'll do all of the license currency, the patching, we'll monitor alerts, we'll notify you when it's time to take action on those alerts. You can focus on security operations. You can take the skill that you have and use it as efficiently as possible. We will offer that in a consumption-based model, so it's cost-effective, it's efficient. We know that another big challenge on the side of security is all these discrete point solutions. None of them integrate together. Now you've got, as you said, limited skill that has to manage all of that. Again, let Kyndryl do that for you. So that's just one example of how we're addressing that skill on the security side. On the resiliency side, we have the best of breed in the market as our partners. What do we do there? We partner with the likes of Veeam. We know that you have invested in the software. You are moving forward, not backward. You are ensuring things like ransomware protection in the software, right? We know that it is robust, it's reliable. When we build the services for Kyndryl around that software, we're bringing the infrastructure that it runs on, the software, all the expertise to provide that capability to a client. If it's cyber incident recovery, it's the things that we talked about. And we've gone beyond, again, just backup to include those key characteristics that one would need for a cyber incident recovery solution.
I think and I'll tell you what, let's dive in. If we could bring up the first slide, just to put some framework around exactly what you're discussing here, because this is interesting. And if it's interesting to me, I guarantee you, Michelle, the folks who are listening today who are out struggling with this, they're keenly aware of how this could help their organizations. Walk us through a little bit more about the practice areas, the layers of your practice, how that actually plays out when you engage with an organization.
Sure. So I actually was speaking to this chart without having it up. It's always exactly burned into my mind. This is basically our portfolio on a page for security and resiliency services here at Kyndryl. I described having it all under the banner of cyber resilience, of bringing cybersecurity and recovery together. Under the banner of cyber resilience, everything a customer needs to do to anticipate, protect against, withstand, and recover from any adverse condition, including cyber attacks. And we go to market in 4 key domain areas: security assurance services, zero trust services, security operations and response services. And resiliency has now been rebranded as incident recovery services. Okay. What do we do under that banner? We do managed backup today. Customers are still using that service. You can think of disaster recovery, or the next gen of it, what we call hybrid platform recovery, as a key part of the portfolio as well. Why do I say that? We know that hybrid's the reality. It's on-prem cloud, any cloud recovery to and from. We still have a large business in data center design and facilities. What do I mean by that? Green IT and sustainability. So those customers that are looking to build a data center or make theirs more efficient, they're looking at emissions. We have project-based services for that as well. And then most importantly, we have cyber incident recovery. And as I said, that is our managed service capability, as well as consult services as well. One of the key things we have in the portfolio is a cyber resiliency maturity assessment. So thinking of resiliency the way you would security, where it's a proactive approach, it's planned from the onset. That's the best way to do cyber resilience. And our CRMA really spans all four of these domains. How prepared are you in the event of to be able to recover? And that maturity assessment can quickly establish the customer's posture for cyber resilience. It can expose the gaps, and then you can proactively address those. So that's really where we start any of our engagements. Kyndryl at the beginning, and we've been a company now just over 2 years, we were predominantly managed services when we started. And one of the things that we quickly did was to ramp all of our consult capabilities. And we today deliver every one of these four domain areas across that continuum. So starting with the consult service to understand the need, to lay out the transformation the customer needs to undertake, and then all the way through to, okay, I now know that I need managed services around cyber resilience because I see the benefit of that. I know that in the event of, I want a services provider that's trusted, that I can phone, who can be there for me in the event of, not just to respond, but also to recover. And that's Kyndryl. That's Kyndryl as a single provider that can provide that end to end. One of the other things that we do as a company is we are consult led, but we have technology. What I have on the chart here is intelligent automation with a platform that we call Kyndryl Bridge. So think of the example that I gave with security operations and response and all those point solutions and things not being integrated and automated and not being able to have insights into your environment. That's something that Kyndryl Bridge provides. Our security operations as a platform is integrated with Kyndryl Bridge that has broader capabilities like AI Ops. So that's another key differentiator for Kyndryl as a brand for security and resiliency overall. And that's one of the things that I think the likes of Veeam are interested in partnering with us to deliver to customers.
Well, very much so. And the interesting thing about this for me and for Veeam, candidly, is the focus on delivering outcomes, not just technical, but business outcomes based on your experience. I know I talk with organizations all the time who, based on Veeam's experience dealing with ransomware attacks on our customers' behalf, when we share with them, look, you might have to recover to a brand new data center because the FBI might tell you that your data center is off limits to you while they complete their forensic investigation. Mm-hmm. If they're fortunate enough not to have been through that, they might that might be a big surprise to them. They might not have planned for that in their planning. If they talk to Kyndryl, you guys, this is not your first rodeo, and I know that you have been through that, and then that's going to factor into your calculations. I also talk to organizations that are trying to wrap their heads for our customers in Europe around what the ramifications are for them of things like new regulations, the Digital Operations and Resiliency Act, DORA in Europe, or the new SEC regulations and cybersecurity rules in the United States. How does Kyndryl help organizations who are trying to come to grips with those and show that they're compliant?
I'm so glad you asked that. So this is a very important area for us. Everything around cyber regulation readiness. And if we look at DORA, and that's just one example. DORA is just one example. It affects the European banks, and a lot of customers say, well, I'm not in Europe, it doesn't affect me. The reality is a lot of banks have subsidiaries in Europe. So it's quite broad. If you read DORA, there are a lot of new strict requirements around recovery. And I think generally speaking, regulators want to see your ability to recover. That's becoming, it's not a, yes, I have a DR plan. It's, no, I actually can demonstrate to you my ability to recover, right? And that's important for the cyber insurers. That's important for the regulators. One of the things that Kyndryl did.
If it's Kyndryl saying it, it's not just the bank representing, It is Kyndryl saying, we've done this hundreds of times, and here's what we've demonstrated, right? It's a different
That's right.
proposition. Yeah.
That's right. This is really an important area for us. If you look at this chart, security assurance services, so you have all of the deep expertise on any of these regulations, the ability to go in and assess the client's ability to be compliant with the likes of DORA. And you pull that all the way through. One of the things that may come out of that is the need for network segmentation. Well, Kyndryl has a networking and edge practice that's here to help you with that. Or it may be on the recovery side. We bring in the resiliency capabilities and we can help the client shore up any of those recovery requirements that are coming out of the new regulation. So it's really end to end. It's the deep subject matter experts that understand the regulation and then can take a customer through a journey. And one of the things that we use, it's very powerful with a customer, is our customer journey maps. Think of it as a large subway map. And along each one of the metro stops, we can drill into exactly what that means, that particular, if it's DORA as an example, that particular requirement, and what is needed, what is expected, and then quickly do the gap analysis with the customer using this very proactive tool to basically lay out a strategy to be as compliant as possible against that regulation. And we've been doing that again and again. One of the things that I think we disrupted the market with as well, on the security side, it's not uncommon to have retainer services with a managed security services provider. So you can think of these for incident response and forensics, the things that you're talking about, Jeff, with the clean room capability. If in the event of I've already retained the service, I know which managed security services provider is going to provide those services, and I can burn it down because I've already, bought this retainer service offering from the managed security services provider. We're the only provider in the world, however, who's done the same with recovery. So we have cyber incident response and forensics retainer services, and we have recovery retainer services. So that in the event of, we won't just respond, we will help you recover. And what I mean by that is dedicated boots on the ground to come in and help you recover the environment if you so choose.
Again, we also, actually delivering a benefit, actually delivering a result. Yep.
Yeah, and we do it proactively. So with the retainer service, you don't have to wait for something to happen. There's engagement with Kyndryl to understand your environment so we know what we're walking into. But then if we see things and provide recommendations that you can implement to shore up your capabilities to be able to recover, we do that as well. So it really is end to end. And I think, again, that's why the likes of Veeam want to partner with us. Obviously, we're not in the business of developing software. We are a services provider. We leave that to the experts at Veeam. But all of the expertise and the ability to deliver the outcome with your technology is what Kyndryl's all about.
That is fantastic to hear. I don't think that I've heard the Veeam Kyndryl alliance better summarized, so I really appreciate it. I know so we'll leave the slide for now. I know we're a couple of months too late to sort of look in the crystal ball and have the what do you see coming in the year 2024 conversation, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Michelle, if you look ahead at the next 6 to 12 months of the Veeam Kyndryl alliance, where do you see things going? What do you see as the challenges on the horizon and the directions that we'll be taking over the course of the next year?
Well, that's a really good question. If we go to the is backup enough for just a moment, right? Because we do hear this from customers quite a lot. Are you prepared for a cyber incident? Sometimes you'll hear, well, I back up the data. And most people assume that the backup environment isn't at risk. In fact, it is.
Completely, yeah, totally.
What we've seen with some of the world's largest attacks is it was actually in the backup environment. These malactors, if you will, they will lay in wait for a long time, sometimes up to 6 months, for an executable file and the ability to proliferate whatever's there very quickly. Backup's not enough. Your backups get corrupted. And if you look at the conversation we've just had around regulation, in depending on the industry and how heavily regulated it is, you need to keep those backups for 7 years.
Right.
And
Exactly.
now think of the regulation as to say, well, prove to me that you can pull up the backup from 7 years ago and it's not been corrupted. So it really, really brings forward the need for a cyber incident recovery solution. And that goes beyond backup. It's air-gapped technology. It's immutable storage. In a nutshell, it's to say I have some copy that I know for a fact cannot be altered, was not altered. And before I initiate the recovery, I've done all of the anomaly detection and scanning of that to know that it's good, so that if I initiate the recovery, I'm not propagating whatever's in that environment further. And that is really what's important. And not all enterprise backup and recovery providers can do cyber incident recovery with their software, right? Obviously, it's a service that we're delivering, but that software itself needs to be robust in that way. It needs to go beyond backup. It needs to be able to be air-gapped, and that air-gap be orchestrated. So there's some automation that's important here as well. And that's one of the things that Veeam has. So it is part of our managed backup services. It's also part of our cyber incident recovery portfolio. And it's a really good choice for customers of all sizes, regardless if they're very mature with respect to cyber protection or if they're just starting to consider that and implement it. I think Veeam's a very good choice for them.
Yeah, as you know very well, we put a lot of focus on that in the last year, particularly version 12.1 that came out in December. And what's interesting is that we had a question on LinkedIn from Mitch who asked, realistically, any recovery should include an avoidance of future attacks to avoid problems recovering the system. What kind of metrics or information is recommended to avoid future attacks and update defenses? And in fact, you just largely answered that, talking about the capabilities that Kyndryl and Veeam bring to bear. It is, Mitch, you're exactly right. It's definitely a big issue. I'll harken back for the last time in today's webinar to a little bit of Veeam research. I know this is one that folks who tune in have heard. It is more common for organizations to get hit quarterly or more, according to Veeam ransomware research, by ransomware in a year than it is for them not to be hit at all. And what that means is that the majority of organizations out there are doing a very bad job of making sure that they don't inadvertently reinfect themselves when they recover from an attack, right? That they do mitigate the threats, the vulnerabilities that are in the environment. So Michelle, I'm really glad you touched on that. It's exactly on target with the kind of capabilities that you really need to recover. So thank you so much. We're just about at the bottom of the half hour here. I want to point out what our listeners and viewers have coming if you tune in over the course of the next week. On Thursday, March 7th, so Thursday of this week, we will continue with the Veeam 100 show. So the Veeam community team will be returning. We will have Veeam community members who will discuss unbreakable Veeam backup fabric, and they will use 2 use cases in Belgium to illustrate this. Industry Insights, of course, will return next Tuesday. And on March 12th, we will have top considerations for small teams who want to modernize their backup in 2024. As always, both of those shows will air at noon Eastern Time. And don't forget, Veeam On 2024 is right around the corner. It is June 3rd to 5th in sunny Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Join us there and be sure to use, when you sign up, the promo code LIVE, L-I-V-E, all caps, for a 10% discount for your in-person sign up. And that's all we have time for. Michelle, it's a pleasure as always. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.